right. It's another day. It's another episode of Your Daily Scrum with professional Scrum trainers, Ryan Ripley and Todd Miller. Todd, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
I love this board that you've set up. We're going to jump right into it, right? No messing about today. No chit-chat, no banter. All business. Because that's what this event is, Todd. It is all business.
It is.
How does the Scrum team show up to the sprint review, Mr. Miller?
You know, it was interesting as we were looking at this and having some conversations about it, because we talk about the sprint review a lot from a product ownership perspective, and a sticky note started falling on the board from this class. It really became quickly clear that there were more sticky notes in the product owners column here, Ryan.
Yeah, it is.
That's really my first observation with this, and we may add some more notes as we do this this episode, right? But it's just kind of interesting to think through the sprint review, right? The sprint review is a product focus. It's our ability to inspect progress really towards the current active product goal and adapt the product backlog accordingly. We're creating transparency with the stakeholders and a lot of stuff going on here, but you know, maybe let's start there. Let's start with what the product owner shows up with, how they show up to the sprint review. We have some notes here. What do you think, Ryan? What do you see?
Yeah, I think the product owner first and foremost is showing up with the current state of the product, right? Hopefully in the previous sprint, the sprint goal was achieved, an increment was created. Perhaps it's released, perhaps it's not. It should be usable, and of high quality. Meets the definition of done. And so the product owner first and foremost should have that current state of the product, perhaps how it relates to the current product goal, right? Make sure that stakeholders are refreshed on the product goal, they're refreshed on the sprint goal, and the current state of the product and how it relates to those two goals. I think that's first and foremost. And then there should be this idea of eliciting feedback. Let's get the feedback from the stakeholders. What's going on in the marketplace? How are they feeling about the product? What are they seeing? What's their data? And after that, the next note that I really see here is aligning all of that great feedback in the current state of the product and updating, let me use a better word, adapting the product backlog based off of the market, the stakeholders, the current state of the product, the budgets, all of those things happening. So this collaborative work, as we try to understand our product and understand what's the next best thing to do, all of that learning goes right into the product backlog. That's where the adaptation happens. And so that we're set up to hopefully do the next best thing in the next sprint. A lot of that, how do you know what the next best thing is? How do you know we're doing the right things? Well, we've got right there, the EBM dashboard. That should be a big discussion point too. What do you see, bud?
Yeah, you know, I just like the idea of a product owner, you know, showing up here and talking about some things that are happening with the product from a consumer perspective, right? Yeah. There's just so much more that we need to talk about here. We need to create transparency to. And my eyes start thinking about the Scrum Master. My eyes are going a little bit towards the Scrum Master because really the Scrum Master needs to uphold Scrum in that they need to ensure that this event happens in an appropriate way that is encouraging all this inspection of all the things that the product owner could potentially bring to this event.
Yep.
And that the product backlog is properly adapted, right? So they really are trying to uphold Scrum here. They may talk about things from their perspective that happened during the sprint. I noticed a sprint goal in all three places here because I think that's universally what the Scrum team was chasing this sprint. Scrum Master might even remind stakeholders why they're here. What are we here for? You know, I think we get caught in our Scrum bubble a little bit. I think it's good maybe to remind stakeholders this is the intent of this event, right? They may even, I would say this, the product owner could ensure the right people are there. So maybe that's part of it, right? But we could put that under both of them. Are the right people here?
Yeah, I think that's a big one for the Scrum Master, Todd. I also think there's probably some room for discussion from the Scrum Master about the effectiveness of the Scrum team during the sprint, right? And how would we know the effectiveness? Maybe we're pointing back to that EBM dashboard, maybe that time to market, that ability to innovate. Those could be some really interesting topics there as well. But Scrum team effectiveness is really in that Scrum Master domain, for sure.
Yeah. I think that takes us last to the developers, right? And last but not least, right? We're doing this in no particular order.
Right.
Everybody has equal weight and importance in this. And, I do think it's good for developers to talk about the increment, what challenges they may have, what concerns may have brought up during the sprint, maybe even demonstrate some of what happened, right? We talk about the sprint review. It's not just a demo because of all of this, right? People that call it a demo are missing all of these things. And we probably are missing 30 sticky notes here, things that we could talk about. A lot of these sticky notes may emerge on the context of the situation you're in. So I think the developers are really the builders. They're there to show their craftsmanship, to talk about challenges they had in building it, and then to show a little bit about what they built, right?
Yeah, I also think developers who hear directly from users, like there's just something meaningful about that. The bidirectional discussions about features and how something, if it was tweaked just a little bit, would save me so much more time, and it builds like the sympathy between developers and the users, which I think is really important. Having that, having people that are using a product hear about the challenges of creating the product is important. Having the challenges of using the product being heard by the developers is really important. And it builds that sense of sympathy and collaboration and togetherness that could be important. I think when you've got the stakeholders gathered and there's a really big, nasty impediment, what a great time for a developer to bring it forward and say, look, the build server is 10 years old. It fails all the time. It's down for days. We could get so much more done if only there was an investment. Well, hopefully the people that have the pocketbook and the ability to help, if the product owner has been unsuccessful to find funding, maybe some of those people can help as well. So I think this is a great opportunity just for everybody to learn what it takes to build the product. They could talk about quality. They could talk about the definition of done. They could remind the stakeholders what's involved in trying to release. There's all sorts of great opportunity here to really talk about how the sausage is made, to use that terrible sounding analogy. But yeah, I think there's just so much here, and you're right. There's probably 30 notes we're missing.
Yeah. It just makes me think, and I think we're running out of time here. I think it would be good for us to do a follow-up episode on how stakeholders show up to a sprint review.
Yeah.
Right. Because so we're talking about the Scrum team here, and that's the intent of this series. I think I'll put on our YDS backlog to talk about how we can work with stakeholders and encourage them to show up in a sprint review.
I love it. How about all of you out there? Let us know in the comments. What have we missed? What are some of the notes that we should have put up here? What are some of your questions? What are your comments? Let us know about how this resonated with you. How do your sprint reviews go? And let us know in the comments. We'd love to see your questions and your experiences and your stories. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next iteration of this series. Check out the socials. We're very active across social media. Be sure to interact with us there as well. Check out the videos that are about to pop up. Boom, there they are. It's like magic. The algorithm thinks you'll like them. We do too. Watch as many as you need. Check those out. Read the description to learn more about us, our book, our classes. For Todd Miller, I'm Ryan Ripley. Go forward, do some good things. Interact with your stakeholders. Learn a lot more about your product. Do something awesome your next sprint. We'll see you tomorrow.
See you.